Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Beruchim Abaim to everyone. Today, Friday, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Perashat Vayigash, Makam Bayat, corresponding to the 6th day of Tevet, the 30th day of December 2022. Today's special breakfast and class, graciously sponsored by Mr. Ivor and Robbie Braka and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved father, David Ben Shafika, alav shalom, Mr. David Braka Sr., that returned his soul to the Almighty a few years back. Definitely a person that we can definitely call him the founder of our synagogue, excessively instrumental with his family and many other generous and wonderful members of the community in establishing what it is known as the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue of Tenbury, the synagogue that you enjoy and love and benefit from every day. It wasn't the way you see today. 20 years ago, 20 some years ago, it was, we can say, an empty lot that had so many, how can I say this, not legal issues, but requirements from the city, from the county, from the state, from the government, the trailers, the caravan. And Baruch Hashem, as we mentioned yesterday, the book of Psalms, Hazor'im bedim'ah berina iksoru. Those that plant with tears will be able to harvest with great amount of joy. So definitely, physically he may be gone, but his spirit is alive and well every day in our synagogue. The neshama of Mr. David Braka Ben Shafika alav shalom, that till the final, we can say, moments of his life, was a frequent, daily, we can definitely say, a person that came to the synagogue every day, came to listen to the shiur, came to pray, came to have the breakfast, came to have a muffin. In the good old days that the muffins were available for breakfast, now we get a different menu, Baruch Hashem. But definitely I remember him vividly and in a loving manner. So B'ezrat Hashem, his neshama is definitely very happy and celebrating in Gan Eden together with his wife, Aliyah Shalom, Mrs. Pauline Braka, the great continuous growth and development of the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue in Aventura. Additionally to this class, graciously sponsored by our dear friend Eli Levy, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved grandmother, Zimbol Laniado Bat Mazal. Additionally by Mr. Ronnie Savdi, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved mother, Mrs. Lucy Savdiye Le'a Bat Bahi ala Shalom. Also by Kobe Cohen, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved mother, Raymonde Rahma Batya alaiha Shalom, and Refuah Shelema of a young child, Abraham Ilan Ben Elisheva, Esther Bat Victoria, and David Ben Rosa, among all of the Cholim of Am Israel. So B'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn a few minutes and we'll get ready for a magnificent Shabbat coming up. I mean, just a friendly reminder, as we're coming across to the end of the Gregorian calendar, December 31st, January 1st, there is a great opportunity to make your donations and to clear your balance in order to qualify for a tax deduction for the year 2022. I'm not fundraising, I'm only creating an awareness. The office is open today, Yechvot Shabbat, only till 2 o'clock. Otherwise, you can do it via email, online, or approach me afterwards, and we'll help you to take care of this in a timely manner. This way, you're able to benefit from the tax law of the year 2022. On a different note, we'll discuss an idea perhaps of Yosef HaSaddik in this week's Perashat. Without any doubt, without any hesitation, Perashat Vayigash is one of the most perhaps emotional Perashiot of the entire Sefer Torah. How it begins with a lot of drama that Yehuda approaches and confronts Yosef, and eventually Yosef, as the Pasuk says, reveals himself to his brothers. But I like to quote a very powerful verse from the Perashah that perhaps gives us an interesting message for life, for each and every one of us. So the Pasuk writes, let me find it quickly, verse number 5. right here. Be'ata, and now after Yosef reveals himself to his brothers, he says, Al te'atzevu, don't feel bad, don't suffer, don't dislike yourself. Be'al ihar be'einechem, and don't be upset or disappointed with yourselves. Ki mechartem oti hinna, that you sold me as a slave. Why? Ki lemihya shelachani Elokim lifnechem. God placed me where I need to be a good provider. How many times Yosef invokes the names of God in this parashiot? Remember last week's parasha when the Torah talks about the dreams of Paro? What Yosef says? Bil'adai, I'm nothing. I'm a human. Elokim ya'anet shelom Paro. God will give me the message. When it came to Potiphar, when it comes now to Yosef and his brothers, and it says, Vaishlacheni, rather, Elokim lifnechem, God put me in front of you. One more, Be'ata, is that the Torah is saying the same thing. Imagine yourself, I say to you, you're a nice person. Okay? You're a nice person. You're nice. Baruch Hashem. Okay? And then I say to you, you're really nice. And then I say to you, you know what? You're a really, really nice person. It's nice. Who doesn't like to hear compliments? Complaints is a different ballgame. That's why complaint and compliments are more or less the same letters. Okay? So the Torah in a way says, don't worry, God sent me. Don't worry, God put me. Don't worry, you did not put me, God put me. 3 pesukim continuously, Yosef says, God. God put me. God placed me. Without any doubt. This is a mega, how do I say this, lesson of bitachon, of trust in a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is not automatic to have trust and faith in God. Today, Baruch Hashem, the topic of faith, the topic of emunah, it has a tremendous amount of exposure in the history of the world. There are lessons of emunah, there are books of emunah, especially by my dear friend and colleague Rabbi David Asher, Living Emunah for Boys, for Girls, for Teens, Weekly Parasha, for Adults, etc. 6 volumes already in all languages available. So today the word emunah is part of our DNA. It's like you say, I'm surfing, I'm downloading, I'm WhatsApping, I'm Googling. All these words, 10 years ago perhaps, most of them did not exist. Maybe a bit more or less, but they were not like today. Not like today. Today, you use word, Googling, WhatsApping, all these things that chat, TikTok, I'm Abdil. TikTok is like a time bomb. TikTok, very dangerous in part. Comes from China, by the way. It's not American made.
Really?
So you gotta be careful with the spying elements. That's a whole different topic. That's why certain brand names of Chinese cell phones are not allowed to be sold in the United States because they're afraid of spyware. But TikTok is very dangerous, spiritually speaking, although many good things you can see, but regretfully people post a lot of things which are definitely inappropriate, but that's not today the class about social media. Today is about how Yosef, despite all challenges, against all odds, sees the light at the end of the tunnel. Our rabbis tell us that Paro, when Paro is given the explanation of the dreams, you know what he wants to do? He wants to give Yosef a new identity. He wants to give him a new name. The visionary, the dreamer, etc. What Yosef says, Ani Yosef, I'm who I am. Don't give me the visionary, the miracle worker, the dreamer translator, but I wanted to uproot the identity of Yosef. How do you uproot the identity of a person? Name. That's why, Baruch Hashem, you always hear, names. David, Moshe, Aharon, Leah, etc. We have some connection to the name. Why? The Gemara writes that the name of a person, it influences the life of the person. Your Hebrew name is what? Ishaq, right? Like your grandfather. What's the name of Ishaq all about? Smiling. Hazaku Baruch. Your name is Aharon. You have a holy name, don't sell it. His name is Aharon HaKohen. Can you imagine being called Aharon HaKohen? And you are Moshe Rabbeinu? Abraham. Okay, Abraham is kindness. You are David. Okay?
You have the potential.
You have the potential. The name, the Hidah, right? The name, right? The Hidah says that the name, Binyamin, right? Also mentioned in this week's Torah portion. In this week's Torah portion, you find a hidden secret. The Torah tells us that when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, he gave gifts to all his brothers, right? But look at the gift that he gave Benjamin. לכולם נתן לאיש וחמש חליפות. To everyone, Yosef gave a gift of clothing. To Binyamin, he gave 5 gifts. 5 gifts. Now the question is, why? And there are many different opinions. What type of gifts were they? Imagine yourself, I want to gift you $100, right? Not me. But let's say I'm going to give you $100, right? I can give you $100 bill. I can give you 5 20s. They all arrive to the same number. Today, Venmo. Today, Zelle. You see, new words that we put in. Venmo mean. It's not a verb, Venmo. But Venmo means, it's in Spanish. Ven money. The money comes. That's why it's called Ven. Venmo, of course. That's what it is. You got to read the secret in between. So, there is a very fascinating concept that says as follows. Binyamin was the only son of Yaakov that was not involved at all in the selling of Yosef. All the remaining brothers had something to do, directly or indirectly. Binyamin was the exception. Now, I want you to follow, in English they say, follow the money. Don't follow the money at this moment. Follow the history channel. Binyamin, the brother of Yosef, the son of Yaakov, had a few famous grandsons or great-grandsons, definitely descendants of his. One of them was called Shaul HaMelech. The first king of Israel was a direct descendant of Shaul. Fast forward, History Channel, Mordechai. Remember Mordechai? Okay, from Megillat Esther?
From Binyamin?
From Binyamin. It's a pasuk in the Megillah. Ish Yehudi, I have, look what I received today. The new Megillah bag for the Megillah raffle, coming soon. In Purim. We'll talk business afterwards. Don't worry about it.
Selling, just letting you know.
Yeah, no. It's already sold. 2 days. God willing. And anyways, it's coming more in a few weeks before Purim. We're going to have a few Megillot for the Kahal. So remember the pasuk in Megillat Esther? Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira. There was a Jew in the city of Shushan, the capital of the kingdom. Ushmo Mordechai. Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimei ben Kish. Kish was the father of Shaul. The king Shaul, first king of Israel, was called Shaul ben Kish. Ish Yemini, a man from the tribe of Binyamin. So we have Binyamin, Shaul, Mordechai. Remember the whole drama in Megillat Esther? After the miracle of Purim, Mordechai walks in front of Ahashverosh, looking the Megillah, with 5 garments. What were these 5 garments? The 5 garments were the garments of Yosef gifting Binyamin 5 garments. I need to clarify. It doesn't mean that they were exactly the same 5 garments, because do the calculation between Yosef's time and Mordechai. Go through the History Channel. 210 years in Egypt, 40 years in the desert, that's 250. 400 years between the conquering of the land and building of the first temple, that's already 650, plus 410 of the first temple, that's already 1,050, 60, plus 70 years of exile in Babel, destruction of the first temple, miracle of Purim. So between Yosef in today's parasha and Mordechai, they were over 1,100 years. Yosef says to Binyamin, you're going to have a Jewish hero by the name of Mordechai. I'm going to invest in him for the future. I'm going to give you the 5 garments, and later on, Mordechai will be dressed as a king in front of Ahashverosh. The garments of Mordechai originate in today's parasha. Fascinating concept. The commentaries on this week's parasha tells us that a person needs to understand that as much as we believe that we are in the driver's seats of our life, we are not. We may be the co-pilots of our life. The main driver, the main pilot of our lives is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And as long as that God is holding the person's hands and the person wants to hold God's hands, we are heading it in the right direction. You know, many times when you're going to do something, or you're going to say a prayer or a class, sometimes you hear the following sentence: B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'nasliach. With the name of God, I will do and I will be successful. You're not obligated to say such a thing. But many times, a person invokes God's presence. God, hold me my hands. God, can I hold your hands? And one of the things that we learn during the week of Hanukkah, that one of the ultimate gifts of God is, whenever you call me, I'll be available. How many times you call people, they tell you, I'm sorry, the caller has a voicemail system that has not been set up. You heard of that? Or you call the person, ring, 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 or the voicemail box is full. You can't leave any messages.
Bye.
Bye, next. It happens to all of us. God says, I don't have a voicemail system. You call me, I'll be there for you. And this was the vitamin of survival that Yosef took in Egypt in order to survive. For all of us to survive, it's not too complicated. Wherever you are in the world, you find a synagogue, you find a place to live, you connect yourself, and you're done. You can be in the Lawrence Avenue Synagogue, right? That's a free promotion. You can be at the Edmund J. Safra Synagogue of New York City, in Tilbury, Share Zion, Mexico, Panama, whatever shul.
New York City.
Oh yeah, all kinds of shuls. If I did not mention your shul, don't take it personal, okay? But it just was on top of my mind. Deal Synagogue as well, beautiful shuls up north. So look at the common denominator of all these synagogues, that each one is successful in their own way, in their own style, in their own fashion. That we all, how do I say this, become attracted to the shul. So we have oxygen coming into our, a magnet, thank you, into our lives. But imagine yourself Yosef in Egypt.
Where you go?
He had no Safra synagogue, guaranteed. And no Rabbi Galimidi for sure. And no delicious breakfast like we have. He had nothing. Food he had. He had no support system. Only Hashem. So you know what we, Hazako Baruch, the Berashah is telling us that as long as the person is connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the tools of survival are given. But no one, God forbid, should take from this statement that I just said that you can afford to live outside of the community. In today's society and today's environment, it's impossible to survive. Because life is not as simpler as it was back then. You know, in this week's parasha, we talk about the opening. It's going to sound funny, but it's the reality of this week's parasha. The first decision, Yaakov Avinu becomes aware of his son Yosef is alive, and we see all the emotions and the happiness that return to the life of Yaakov. But what is the first concern of Yaakov? Is there a kollel in Egypt? It's a pasuk in the Torah, I'm not making it up. Is there a yeshiva in Egypt? It's a pasuk. I'm going to read it to you. You know, why do I let the Torah do the talking? The pasuk says, Be'et Yehuda. What the pasuk says? Be'et Yehuda, Shalach lefanav el Yosef. Yehuda, the son of Yosef, was sent ahead of the entire family of Yaakov. The Bereshah tells us there were 70 people that came down to Egypt. Yaakov says, I'm going to come with my wife, I'm going to come with my kids, I'm going to come with my grandkids. Is there a Talmud Torah for them? Mm-hmm. How can I move to a city and there is no education for my children? And that's what the pasuk says. Yehuda was sent before everyone else. Lehorot lefanav goshna. What's the meaning of lehorot lefanav? Comes the Midrash Tanhuma, letaken lo bet Talmud shemisham tetze hora'ah. I need to have a yeshiva for the education of my children, so we are able to live as a Jewish people when we are surrounded by millions of Gentiles.
So Yosef's son is Yehuda?
No, the brother. Yaakov sent his son Yehuda to Yosef. And where did they settle? They didn't settle in the real land of Egypt. They settled in a city called Goshen. You know, in New York, in South Florida, they tried to do it. I'm not sure how successful it's becoming. In Mexico, they are doing it as we speak. Today, I'm going to throw a few names of cities that have this, what Yaakov Avinu had. For example, in New York State, you have Monsey, correct? You heard of Monsey? Mm-hmm. Monroe, New Square. Religious places. Five Towns is a wonderful place, but not to the level of Monroe, that no cars driving on Shabbat. Modesty is a requirement. There are no TVs found in the homes. It's a whole different concept. Borough Park is different. Borough Park is a melting pot. Let me do the talking. You do the listening. You enjoy the breakfast. Because what happens, I apologize if this sounds a bit blunt, but you don't know who is going to listen to this class. We have the virtual audience of iTorah. We have everybody here. Then we have a distribution system of emails and WhatsApps. I'm not going to tell you the numbers because for my humility, it's better not to say them. And I get questions constantly, and among them from people that I don't even know, and some of them are Gentiles. I know that for a fact. How they get my class, don't ask me. Somehow they register to a different chat and they get it. But it's fine because we always try to be proper and respectful. Lakewood, New Jersey, wonderful city. You know that recently they started to found the foundation of the Lakewood of Mexico. An hour and a half from Mexico City, people that you know well, they established the city of Torah. That's how it's called.
Beautiful.
It's a Lakewood style in Spanish. Houses for families that want to live in a more of an affordable type of lifestyle, because Mexico City, let's be honest, is not a cheap city to live in, and the community is only growing, and the community is only expanding. So they establish, it's not built yet, they're now finishing with the government for the drainage, for the sewer, for the highways, for police department, fire department. But the minimum requirement is that if anybody who wants to purchase a property, A, is not for investments, is to live in, and there is a minimum spiritual level of observance required to live in this city. It's happening now. Not in the 1900s, 2022. The inauguration was 6 months ago of the founding of the land, of the city, and now we're going to change from the main capital, Mexico City. Now, guess what? This is what this parasha says. I'm not telling you, God forbid, tomorrow Tampa. You know, Tampa, Florida, they are investing from New York to open up a kosher-friendly town. And the city of Tampa in the West Coast is very interested in attracting new influx of people moving to the state of Florida. If you read the report, the state of Florida is the #1 in the nation that people are moving from all over, especially the West Coast and the northeastern of the United States.
Tax-free.
Orlando is exploding as a community. Orlando for many years was go to see Mickey Mouse, go to Epcot, Magical Kingdom or Magic Kingdom, whatever it's called, that's called Animal Kingdom, and lleno. Now Orlando has yeshivot, has kosher restaurants, has mikvahs, has many synagogues, not only during the winter break time, all year long. This is what Yaakov Avinu says in this week's parasha. If I'm going to bring my kids to a new country, I need to have an environment that whatever I did back home, I don't lose it. And that's why the concept of spiritual growth and development of the families of the Jewish people is not limited to ourselves, but it needs to be transferred over to our children, to our grandchildren, for the future generations to come. And this is a fascinating lesson of Jewish survival. We are surviving as a nation. What I mean surviving means the Jewish nation should have been part of a museum. Our threats to our existence throughout history, go through the Holocaust, go through the Inquisition, go through the Crusades, go to the pogroms, go to whatever historical name you want to give, the Phoenicians, the Assyrians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, what they had in mind, how to affect the Jewish people. Thank God, everyone that I mention now are part of a museum, are part of a textbook. We are alive. We are a miracle, as Yaakov Shreki's song says. We are a miracle. We are a miracle. We are a miracle. But how did this miracle was activated besides God's intervention, which is mandatory requirement to have? Our participation, our connection to our traditions, to our Torah, to our rabbis, to our parents, and grandparents, which is a pasuk in Perashat Ha'azinu. Perashat Ha'azinu, one of the last farewell speeches that Moshe gives to the Jewish people. You know what he says? Don't cut the umbilical cord of the past. You need to be connected to your father and to your grandfather, because your connection to them is going to give you the tools for your connection for your future. I'll finish for your grandchildren, etc. I'll finish with the following statement. One rabbi was asked many years back, how do I know if I was a successful Jewish parent? And I'm not talking about financial support and academic education. I'm talking about from the Jewish perspective. You know what this great rabbi said? If you have Jewish grandchildren, means that you did good. Meaning to say, if your grandchildren follow in your footsteps in a good way, in a positive way, with the community, with the schools, that our friends and our relations are all Jewish and healthy, etc., that's a victory.
That's an accomplishment.
That's a big accomplishment in life. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, how important money is, and financial success it is, and academic learning it is. As a Jew, all that is important and essential for life. But as from the Jewish perspective, you know what's our mission? That we stay away from assimilation. And the antidote of assimilation is community life, community connection, to our traditions, to our minhagim, to our sla, to our prayers, to our makam. Somebody asked me, Rabbi, why do you say the makam of the week? Because the makam is an important and integral part of the prayers. It's like I give a speech today about Shavuot. Does it make sense that today I speak about Shavuot? No. Even though we can definitely find a connection, because Shavuot, like it or not, is the most important holiday of the Jewish calendar. We don't have Shavuot, we are nothing. The Torah. So look at that. You gave me a word, I gave you a speech. I'm not selling anything now. My dear friends.
Here we go.
No. I already said what I have to say.
I know.
Thank you. Anybody wants to talk to me about topics, talk to me after Kaddish. It's 5 to 10, so I think that for today, everybody needs to get ready for Shabbat. We're going to say Rabbi Hananiah and Kaddish Al Israel, and I wish everybody to have a beautiful, beautiful Shabbat. You see the mega size Kaddish. We would like to clone that and have a beracha harona ala mechiyah on that wall for 18,000.
18,000.
Yeah, sure. You know the merit that every day of the week people recited from it. That's what he paid for the Kaddish. He made a good investment. Every day of the year is being utilized by many people after Torah learning. Doesn't get better investment. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך, ירבה להם תורה מזוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו, ידיר תורה וידיר קדיש.